Today we're talking about the 5 major issues I have with the Z Flip 6, and this is not the mood. Now to start, the Z Flip 6 is a pretty awesome device, and it is a substantial upgrade over the Z Flip 5, and one of the easiest ways you can tell is just by looking at them side by side. The design language of the Z Flip 6 makes the Z Flip 5 look like an antique. But today is all about every single major problem about the Z Flip 5, and we're gonna get started with the one that's most obvious as soon as you open the box. This inner display is actually closer to cracking than any other previous Z Flip device ever. This glass is making a really creepy cracking noise. Just take a listen. You hear that? Every time I go in, it makes this like creaking noise that the glass is like kind of bending, maybe too far. And that's definitely not too far. And none of my previous fold devices have ever made that noise, especially when I was folded all the way out and I was just folding it in. This is the first one to do that. Just take a listen and see if you can notice a difference in the glass. Here's the Z Flip 5. And then listen to the Z Flip 6. There's a difference. There's a proper difference there, and that's basically this glass being thicker. And that scares me even more because a single dust particle getting in between the two displays when I'm, closing it up can shatter this glass almost immediately. And we'll get into Samsung's dust resistant lie in just a second, but for now, you're gonna have to stay up to date on exactly how this inner display holds out by smashing that subscribe button below. For now though, there isn't any functional hindrance from this glass making that creaking noise, and so far the crease has looked pretty good. There's no hairline crack or any sort of discoloration going on, but again, we're gonna keep up to date on how that glass creaking sound progresses. So problem number 2, Samsung is lying. Ladies and gentlemen, they, to drive more consumer confidence into their new product, obviously had that whole dust resistant rating. This is the first phone to get the first foldable device to get a official dust proof or dust resistant rating, and it's specifically an IP48 rating. What does that exactly mean? That this is resistant to any wires or particles that are over 1 millimeter in diameter. Now come close, ladies and gentlemen, come close. Let me show you something. When you close this phone, right? When you close it fully, just like that, there's a little space here, just a tiny little, tap, little hole in the corner right down there. And guess how big that hole is exactly? Just a wild guess, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is 1 millimeter in length. It's a square hole, so it's just 1 millimeter. And years ago on this channel, we did a whole breakdown of exactly how big dust is and how resistant these displays are. And we found out that most dust particles are going to be on the order of microns, not millimeters. So most dust is still getting past this hole and in between the display. Now, maybe Samsung has it that anything less than 1 millimeter is not a risk to the inner displays, but again, this is closing pretty tightly. It could be that if it's smaller than 1 millimeter, it just kind of is suspended in between the two displays and it isn't getting crushed in. Realistically, this phone is not dust resistant. It is to some extent no different than the previous outgoing Z Flip 5 because this one also had those hinges on the corner. This one also has this raised bezel that goes all the way around. And so when you close the display like that, it's that raised bezel that is basically hugging the other end and basically providing this like lock-proof mechanism. On the new one, we have a bezel which is flat this time, so this one does offer a little bit better of contact. There's more surface area that's in contact with the other side of the display, so when you do close it, there's a little bit big of a barrier. That's all there is. So there's not a major upgrade over the previous device when it comes to dust resistance, and dust resistance is one of the main causes of shatters in this display, specifically dust getting behind the display. So going behind the display into the hinge, and then if it gets stuck behind the hinge and you close the display, that glass particle or dust particle is going to be able to pierce the glass, and that can cause you issues. Now, one way to protect your phone Ladies and gentlemen, get yourself a case, get yourself a screen protector. Shout out to BENKS for sponsoring this video. They've sent over their Armor Air case for the Z Flip 6 as well as a screen protector. Okay, look at that presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. You got the all Kevlar build. All right, so it is obviously a two-piece case. It is not, it's adding literally nothing to the width of the phone itself. And the whole design language, I mean, as you can see, it's supposed to mimic the Aurora Borealis, the Arctic lights. More importantly, let's go ahead and add the screen protector. That's really seamless. Can you even tell it's on? You want a screen protector on the outer display mainly because replacing that is going to cost you about $500. And the whole case fits on top and you're all set. That hole that shows up on the corner is getting filled with the case. You know what? Now we might actually have a proper dust-proof rating with the case on. That's pretty cool. Now, BENKS is partnering up with Chilled Fossil to offer you guys 15% off on all products. Use code CF15 to get 15% off on this Armor Air case, but also every other one of their cool products on their website. Definitely check them out. Linked in the description below. If you want to check out these wallpapers, definitely check them out in the link in the description below. It also helps support the channel, but that's it. Okay, let's talk about the battery, because this battery, it might just be, it needs a little bit more time. It maybe just needs more time with me, but for now, there is zero difference between this battery and the battery on the previous Z Flip 5. And even though this has a bigger 300 milliamp hours bigger battery than the Z Flip 5, is not going to give you a noticeable difference in your day. That's a very small amount. However, I was expecting with the new processor, the Gen 3, to get a significant difference because that processor is much more heat or battery efficient. But we're not seeing any of that right now. Maybe it just needs more time. But also, this is supposed to be 25 watt fast charging. It's supposed to be the exact same as on the outgoing Z Flip 5. Now, I do kind of this test every time for myself just to make sure that we're getting up to 25 watt. But so far, I've never actually gone up to 25 watts. I've always capped out at 18 or at 20 watts. My meter is capping out at 20 watts as well. Now, this charger goes up to 150 watts. So we can kind of test exactly how fast this is charging, and this is maxing out at, now it's okay at 18 watts. So even the charge speed itself, to go from 0 to 100, it's about 80 minutes. It's about 1 hour and 20 minutes long just to go from 0 to 100%. And again, no major difference in charge speeds, and charge life is generally the same as the Z Flip 5 in my opinion. And if you know anything about my opinion of the Z Flip 5 battery, it's that the battery is not good. The only saving grace here can possibly be that the Gen 3 processor needs a little bit more time to optimize, which in most cases it does take a few weeks for it to do that. It has in some cases even taken a whole month or two. So we're just going to keep an eye on that. But for now, a couple of days after opening up the box and using this phone, it is still not at the point where I'm like, yeah, I can get through a whole day without charging. I still have to charge this in my car on my way to work and on my way back from work. So even though we're moving in the right direction when it comes to battery, you know, Samsung giving us a bigger battery, a more battery efficient processor, we're not there just yet. And the same can be said about this outer facing camera. Yeah, now we're at 15 watts on the meter. So as you can see right there, 15 watt outgoing out of charge port 3.0. I just have never seen 25 watt charging, even when this says 25 watt charging. Like, we are fast charging right now. And it says 1 hour, 18 minutes until full from 38%. This is crazy. Yeah. Okay, talking about the camera, I'm not bashing on this camera as a whole, okay? As a whole, it has come a long way. Even from just the Z Flip 5, this camera is significantly better. However, it's not anywhere close to the S22 Ultra, and there's two reasons. Two major complaints that I have. It's not necessarily with the software, okay? We're not gonna talk about generative AI and Galaxy AI because those are there, those work just as good as they should. However, it doesn't matter how good your editing software is, if the actual thing you're editing, the picture, doesn't look good. The problem on the two fronts is number one, with grain. There is still a lot of grain when you don't have enough light. Now, enough light can be just like clouds overhead. If you have clouds, you're not gonna have enough light, and that means you're getting grainy images all across the edges, and wherever it is dark, wherever there's some shadows, it just turns into grain, and that doesn't look good. But the bigger problem, like seriously, the bigger problem that I have is the post-production. This like post-AI production that Samsung does. Whenever you take a photo, it kicks it in and it like smooths out all of those grains by itself, but that just makes it look like smeared. It basically smears the picture, and that doesn't look good in my opinion. The worst part though is that I can't turn this like post-production mode off. I've tried pro mode, I've tried to look around in the functions, but there's no way to turn it off, and it kicks in immediately. As soon as you take the picture, you look at your picture and it'll just fill it in with smearing up all of that grain and basically presenting you with this like AI doxed photo, and I just don't like it. So the camera is still a major problem, not because of bad camera quality or just bad cameras. It's a good camera. It's a 50 megapixel outer display. It's a good camera. We got 2x zoom now finally. All right, we're moving in the right direction. Big upgrade over the Z Flip 5, but some of these like gimmicks that Samsung is including, I just do not want to see. I'm actually okay with having a little bit of grain there just to see that like gradient or contrast instead of having them smear out that grain and have the picture look like a painting. It doesn't look good. But let's move on to the last major problem, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5. There is no DEX. There is no desktop mode, and there is no S Pen compatibility. Now I know the Z Fold 6 got S Pen compatibility, so where's mine, ladies and gentlemen? Come on now. Having DEX or desktop mode on this would be so cool. It'd make it so much more functional and elevate that multitasking experience, especially when you do things like TikTok or Instagram stories or anything on like YouTube Shorts. If you want to be able to kind of edit everything on your phone, which I really think is the next step. I mean, so far what we've been doing is taking the video on our phone or something like the Osmo Pocket 3, going to our computer, editing on the computer on like some dedicated software, and then sending the email or uploading it to Google Drive or something so we can download it on the phone and then posting it. That's a long work process. If that can all be streamlined to be able to be done on the display of this phone with the functionality of the phone, that would be phenomenal. And you can actually do that on phones like the S23 and the S24 Ultra because they have that S Pen compatibility. You can really get in and edit minute fine details in photos and videos with Samsung's editor. Samsung's editor is amazing. The Galaxy AI features for editing photos and videos are fantastic. It's just that you don't get all of that functionality because that sort of like workhorse workplace that you would find in DEX or that multitasking capability is just not getting here, and that annoys me. Also, by the way, on the S24 Ultra, I got used to playing games, like mobile games, on my TV, on the 85-inch TV, and like once you do that, it's really hard to go back. And you have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in here, just like the S24 Ultra. And obviously I want to push that to the extreme. I mean, I paid for it, but I can't because now I also can't play games on this phone on my TV, which again, I know it's like separate. I know it's not a thing most people do, but it's just so much fun, especially when you start using it a lot. None of that's going to happen on this. And obviously S Pen compatibility, like I don't need S Pen integration, right? I understand you can't do it. I understand it might need to be like a telescoping S Pen. So okay, we don't need that. We don't need an S Pen that fits into this phone, but just having that compatibility, again, I would rather have that and DEX and just have to take my S Pen around when I want to edit videos and be able to edit them on my phone rather than go through that whole working, system to try to get the video off my phone onto computer into an editing software and then back onto my phone. We can avoid all of that, and Samsung's editing software is more than capable. Plus, even downloading apps like CapCut for Android is a powerful editing software for content creators. So if you are a content creator, your life would be so much easier if you just had S Pen compatibility. And the funny thing is, this is marketed to content creators, but the S24 Ultra and the S23 Ultra, which are the same price, are better phones for content creators. So it just doesn't make sense to not have, at the very least, S Pen compatibility on this device. So those are the 5 major issues with the Z Flip 6. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and until next time, take it easy. Peace.